When you're growing cut flowers, every day is different. I feel like you need to be prepared to kind of tackle the fluidity of what every day involves. The weather changes, a market changes, an idea pops into your head. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is kind of going with the flow and trying new things and being okay with experimenting and failures. I mean, I don't need to give you a speech on failures. Failures are just part of the game. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to walk through a few things that I've had happen to me this last few months. And I kind of wanted to share with you how I am dynamically attacking them and adjusting and just being okay with it.
Welcome to Learn Cut Flower Growing. Whether you are an inspiring green thumb, a busy mompreneur, or simply seeking a passion, you are in the right place. If I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I would do it smarter. And that's what I'm sharing here. I want to take years off your learning and help you bloom with confidence in your garden. Each episode, I'll share practical tips and ideas, heartfelt stories, and expert insights to help you grow and find balance in your journey. I'm Paula Rice, your cut flower farmer guide. I've been growing for 16 years, and I'm an expert in my field, literally. So grab your gardening gloves and listen to me while you work, or grab a cup of coffee and relax as you learn to manage a cut flower garden and business.
Okay, so here we go. I love to grow flowers and do the business of flower growing because I'm playing the game, you guys. I literally am just playing the game in the medium that I love and adore, and that is growing cut flowers. So I'm always out here looking at a plant and thinking, how could I manipulate you? How could I cut you so that you would produce more or look a little different or be branchy and all of those things? I'm also always thinking about, well, how could I develop a market to buy the flowers that I want to sell? And what do I need to do to accomplish that task? And the only way, we can talk about that ahead of time all day long, but until you're actually in the muck of it and doing it, that's when clarity comes. That's when you're like, the aha moments come. And that's where all of the learning and shaping happens. So number one, you just kind of have to start. Number two, let's just look at what I've done this year. Okay. So one of the things that I think as I was trying to grow my flowers and build markets, I was always looking for people like, okay, I've got this established. I have this process set up. How can I move someone into this process and take over it so that I can move on to maybe the next level of the thing that my business needs? And that is super hard. And that's probably what this entire podcast forever is always going to be about, is like, how can I build something and have processes that work, even if it's just me running the process. But here is the biggest warning that I want to say, is that you should never leave your customers that space. And here's why. Because when you are working with your customers and talking with your customers, it's like being at the farmer's market. That's why I highly recommend it. You being at the farmer's market, because your customers are going to tell you so much. You are going to get so much awesome intel through your customers that is really what makes your business grow and be amazing. So in that regard, I built a grocery store route. And this spring, if you guys were following me, you noticed that Paula Rice needs to sell her curly willow. Paula Rice needs to sell her peonies, because I'm having a bit of a problem trying to scale down, because at the end of the day, I have too much going on here. In fact, I'm doing a video. Oh my gosh, I can totally turn this around with me. Sorry if this is a podcast, but here's a Woody's row of way too much product for what I am trying to do. Okay. Here is my peony field. So I'm obviously not that small. I'm small, but I'm not that small that these few little cash crops are causing me a little bit as far as scaling back and niching down, having a much smaller market at a more profitable rate per stem. Okay, that all being said, I built the grocery store route, and it's like, now I need a driver, because you don't want to go do the driving. I mean, for a while you need to, but at the end of the day, it's like finding a driver to follow your processes and procedures to get your flowers to market, somebody else should be doing, because you should be here looking at your farm and taking care of your flowers and doing the more important tasks. But one day I had to do the route, and it was good for me. I was on the route. Pardon, my dog is chasing a cat. Anyways, I was on the route, and it was amazing because here I'm talking to the produce managers who are my boss, who are my client in the market world, the grocery store market world. And they were sharing, I'm like, hey, how's it going? You know, because we have a relationship, we're talking. And he's like, oh man, we are really having a harder and harder time getting flowers because the big conglomerates, like the big stores, you know, if you go to like a Walmart or a Shopko, you know, they have a lot of buying power and they are buying up the flowers. And I mean, I was watching it. The store that I was used to give flowers to and that I was selling my peonies to really had terrible flowers. I'd never seen it be so bad. They were obviously kind of just getting what was left over. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like I'm leaving that wholesale grocery world, but I'm like, the stage is set. This is actually amazing. Like I totally could, at this point, negotiate with them and say, hey, if you're having this problem, like I could move, I would be able to move up my ability to negotiate on my own behalf. Like, okay, this is their pain point. What they really need to do is start finding small growers in their areas and contract with them. Like, hey, this is the opportunity and it's here. Like, talk to the grocery store and say, give me 1/3 of this cooler and I will take care of it. I will keep it clean. I will bring my flowers. Like I was doing 9 grocery stores and traveling. And so that was far more difficult. But if you could just get your local store and a section of their cooler, oh man, they would love you because they hate taking care of the flowers. And you just kind of kept it clean. They're not probably going to be able to give you the whole cooler. They might though. If they are really having problems and they're not being profitable, why wouldn't they just say, you know what? We're not going to worry about flowers in the winter, but when summer comes, we have a local grower and that person comes in and brings their flowers, and just start to negotiate in that way. You know, I think that the model possibly could be changing a little bit and creating a bit of a window for all of us. Anyways, I'm not going to move in that direction, but my wheels were turning because I was sitting there and visiting with my customer and learning their pain points and what their problems were, and noticing that, oh my gosh, there's a market here finally after all these years of struggle. Because when I started entering the wholesale world of flower farming and selling my flowers, it's hard to get into the grocery stores. For anyone who is in a chain grocery store, let me just tell you, it is very hard. Probably one of the more of the difficult places to break into. But I see a time coming where I see a time coming, and I have experience with visiting them, that the time is coming where they are going to be happy to take you on with your farm fresh flowers. So I only, of course I was always dreaming that dream, but being out there and driving that route, it's here. So I just want to help you to be brave and, come into, your biggest thing is that you need flowers all season long. They need to be able to depend on you. And that's mostly what I talk about in my courses and things like that as I build them out. You guys do know that I have a school community that I am starting. I am just about got that loaded. And I know that's probably the biggest pain point everybody has, is like, how do I have flowers all season long? And how do I guarantee that I will have something? Okay. That being said, the next thing, so that's the big aha moment. Just staying in with your clients and visiting with them, never allowing yourself to be so high and mighty of an owner that you are not staying where you need to be. All right. The next thing I tried, I'll walk that way while I talk about that. I'll go through this gate and walk that way, was my peony field. So I knew I would have to do the grocery store and stay somewhat in the wholesale world for the amount of peonies that I have. But I also wanted to experiment with a U-pick peony patch, because I'm like, okay, would they come? And I wanted to feel in the spirit of it, experimentation, I wanted to feel the pain of what it would take to try to do you picks. So we put together all of our signage. We came up with a price and we put it on Facebook, and it was going to be like this 3-week window. And I was pretty jacked about that. I'm like, let's see what happens. And of course they would just pick the peonies in the field. We even had pruners out here for them. We did not provide buckets because they didn't need them, though I did learn I need to educate people on that, because one lady was like, well, where's the buckets and all the water? And so I was like, okay, I just need to put on the sign, recut your stems when you get home. And it was kind of fun. People came. They loved it. I loved to see the moms come. Like, they had dates with their little daughters. Like, I had a woman come, and she had her 3 little girls, and they were out there picking peonies. And I just really liked that. It's odd for me because I've always been a country bumpkin. I've always grown up in the country. But as more people are moving into our area from the cities, I recognize that city people like to come out and have an experience. Like, with the raspberries, even if things aren't perfect, they're like, it's all about the experience. And I'm always like, I grew up so, I don't know, meager. I was like, actually, it's all about the food. It's all about the flowers, because I grew up on a farm and I was experiencing farming and living in the, working in the country all the time. Anyways, that being said, I loved it and I learned a lot, because here I have this peony field and it's like, okay, there's some problems. Like, how am I going to have enough blossoms out here in the field for people? And I don't even know if they're coming. Like, how much am I willing to sacrifice for these guys to come and to try you pick peony for harvesting? Because I don't expect this to be a success the first year. I just expect to learn. So, and I wouldn't even say that I expect it to be successful next year or the third year, but maybe after that, there would be enough of a tradition that people would be like, oh my gosh, peonies are on at Behaven, and everybody in the Northwest for 3 hours around travel to Bonners Ferry, Idaho, eat lunch with their friends, and come out and pick peonies. And for the people who don't want to actually pick the peonies, they just can buy them in the farm stand. We'll have them there at a little higher price because we did the work. I have 2 sides here. I'm like, okay, how do we harvest what I need? Because I can't just let it all go to waste. You can't do that. So I'm trying to pick it, dry store it, so that I can sell peonies up through July from my cooler, but then recognizing, I don't know who's coming. I don't know how much they're going to want. I know that I probably need some blossoms blooming in the field because they're all going to be taking photos and they want this to look lovely. And so I'm like, okay, I've got 2 sides of the field. Maybe I would just take one side and pick it hard and leave the other side. And then the next day I would go to the other side, pick it hard, and leave the second side. You also could probably do every other peony. Like, I'm going to take everything from one peony and not the other. And so the whole field would look good, not just one side. We also tried the strategy of like, okay, you guys, today we're just going to go out and we're going to take almost everything that is fully bloomed, because we will dry those. I mean, I have to have some for drying, so that stage does not freak me out at all because I do dry peonies. So then it's like, so what we would be leaving is everything in kind of marshmallow stage so that people could pick that. So I would send one person out. Well, number one, okay, let me back up. Number one, we were always picking for cold storage because nobody's going to really notice that, and leaving some. And then we would, anything that was a little more advanced than that in kind of a super puffy stage to full bloomed, we could leave it. Or I would say, okay, take half of everything that's blooming today for drying, and then take everything for cold storage. And then you would look back in the field and it's like, okay, we've got some blossoms and we have some nice puffy peonies for somebody to pick and take home. So I was playing that game nonstop. And then, of course, nobody came right away. We had a weekend that was really rainy. Nobody was coming. And so I'm like, you know what? Nobody's coming. I'm going to go save those peonies. And so I went through and harvested everything that needed to be harvested. We were really ahead of it, and I didn't have stuff blooming yet. I had just started it. And then sure enough, somebody showed up. So that's when I recognized, okay, this is going to be more of a puzzle than what I realized. But just playing that game. And I think it's a thing. I I think people are looking so much for soul and spirit and connection and all of the things that they maybe can't do that I think I'm moving towards U-Picks. I'm totally going to talk to you about the U-Pick Dahlia patch I just started. People come here, they do the work, and I'm just curious how much I can build that market without me leaving the farm and then building systems where it takes care of themselves. And I branched out to this because I had familiarity with U-Pick through my raspberries. And we did it. The raspberries is pretty much online and people can order a row. We have an email sequence that we send them and people just come. Like you get all day to come pick the raspberries. It's your row for the entire day. I have a little video on please pick it really, really well because that's super important. And we have enough of a tradition of that going now that number one, in the beginning, I was like, okay, nobody's come. We have to go pick those raspberries. It was horrible. Way too many raspberries. Now we have the opposite problem. We had people calling us a month and a half in advance saying, hey, I want to get down on the raspberry picking. And to the point where we finally only have so much and we would have a waiting list and getting we are able to get everybody in on that. But I can see a time where we won't have enough raspberries for everybody that wants to come and pick. And of course, the U-Pick raspberry, you move through that, and every year there's always a problem there too that probably needs to be solved or I need to give more clarity on. And the biggest problem is like the rows aren't always the same size. So I'm working as a grower to get them to be about the same size. People want to know how much they're going to get out of the row, the whole 9 yards. And I will do a raspberry problem course or podcast at some point. And the biggest thing I am trying not to do is I'm trying not to sell them by the pound. I just want people to be really okay with you might get a crazy abundant amount and that's wonderful and awesome for you. And maybe this time it wasn't as good or this season wasn't as good. And this season we had a lot of problems because the berries just were not ripening on time. And I can't I mean, like, it was horrible to wake up every day and just suck. Have everybody be like, well, I didn't get enough berries. And I'm like, I know, I don't know. The blueberry people are having the same problem. It's never happened to me before. And so it was like this new problem. And finally I was rebooking people. Finally, we changed the whole patch around and it's like, okay, we have to give them 2 rows to make up for what they're used to getting. And in the back of my mind, thinking about like, okay, well, you might have got 6 bags last year, but holy smokes, 6 bags. I only charge $15 to just come and pick a row. And we've got 30 some rows. Here I am. I'm over here and that dog, you guys are going to hear him barking because he loves to come out with me in the field. So just solving all of those problems. And the main thing to, at this point, raspberries are they're working out of being a side gig and just a happy thought to a little more serious this is a serious revenue stream and I should probably pencil this out a little more and be more conscious about that. And that is truly what I am starting to do. But I do not want to move to price per pound. So I just look at people and I'm just like, I recognize when they totally got a crap amount. And I'm like, you guys, and people were so good. They're like, we get it, Paula. This is a crazy year. We don't know what's going on either. And so I would rebook them or I would say, can I please send you some flowers? Because I had lots of flowers. And I loved the opportunity to even give them some of my flowers to try. Maybe they really aren't flower connoisseurs. So that was good to do as well. So I could make up for that. Okay, so we tried the U-Pick peony. And I just want to kind of keep doing that a little bit. Feel the pain of that. See if I can't get that process smooth. Raspberries. Continue to play with that. Whatever problem I'm going to have, throw it at me so I can try to get it solved over time. And yeah, price per pound is just a management issue. And, then you have to weigh it. And I don't know. I just really wanted to stay laid back and have the families come with their babies and pick. Okay. So the next thing I'm trying is the U-Pick Dahlia patch. And I've been documenting that so that I could put that into my course on how I do dahlias as low input as possible. And I'm going to be in the same game problem as the peonies because I need to leave enough out there for people to pick, and they have to be picked on a regular schedule so that the field is blooming on a regular schedule. So, in the old world, when we would just hit the field Monday, Wednesday, Friday and pick everything. I walk through a field, I pick it, and I leave no color behind. no color behind, because I know in 2 days there's going to be color again. But this is going to be a little bit different. It's like, okay, what if somebody shows up on Monday and wants dahlias? And all the possibilities that could go with that. It's like, okay, well, if I don't have to pick the dahlias, and people just come pick the dahlias, I like you pick guys, because people will pick more. They will buy more. That's one key takeaway I have learned. And then educating them on how to pick the dahlias or do the you pick. That's just another piece to get figured out. And with the dahlias, it's like, holy smokes, you want them to take enough of a stem, but you don't want to take them the entire stem. Yeah, so I'll figure out a way to solve that, possibly a little video in the farm stand as people pay for their dahlias or come in. I don't know. I'll get that figured out. So the you pick dahlias, they show up and they need some blossoms in the field. But I also know that I have to get rid of the blossoms that are in there so that new blossoms come. And we have this continuous flow of flowers to pick. So again, it's back to the strategy. It's like, okay, am I doing every other row? Am I doing every other plant? You know what? Talking to you here, I think every other plant might be the way to go. Like, just head out there every day. Except I don't think I would do it on the weekends. I think I'll leave the weekends alone. See, there's a lot to be figured out. But I love the idea of the you pick dahlias. Let's just see where that goes. Come on. In time, I could probably get that niche down to be as simple as possible. Okay. We talked about the you pick raspberry. Let's see. Okay. The biggest problem I'm having this year as I scale down, and I talked about that in the beginning, is how I have too much. And so I'm having a hard time being profitable and managing that. When you change something up in your business, and it's important to know this, I think you just have to realize this isn't going to be easy. This isn't necessarily going to go smooth, and I'm going to probably lose money in the meantime. And as you get it figured out, and that's kind of what's going on. That my mature woodies field, my mature peony field, all of that still has to be managed, even though I am trying to scale back and niche down. But it's the same process. It's like, okay, let's go through this year. Let's feel the pain. Like, I have a lot of Equinox retro and I would love to get that sold. But then other ideas pop into my head. It's like, okay, I'm going to dry half of that crop. I'm going to contact a florist because personally, I think glove thistle is an amazing thing to grow. If you want a cash crop, grow that, because you will sell that. You will sell that to your neighbors. You will sell that to the florist, and it dries amazingly well, and it's beautiful. Beautiful. It is one thing when you plant it, when you harvest it, okay, it looks like it's this prickly thing, and you're like, oh, the texture in the bouquet is going to be all spiky. No, it is not. It is not. It is going to be soft and lovely. Go figure, because it is kind of a prickly looking thing and all that jazz. But when you put it into a bouquet, it is just beautiful. I'm going to turn my camera around here. And we've actually been harvesting this quite a bit. I'm doing this through the fence. And I just love it. So I still have to harvest all of that on time. I still have to store that. The woodies, I just kind of just leave it. I will clean those up next year. I don't have the team hired to keep it under control to get it sold. So next year, in fact, I already talked to my main person that helps me here about, okay, next year when we go into the season, we need to have a dedicated person that just pops in maybe 2 or 3 hours every other day and gets that harvested and talks to the market where we would sell it. Probably the wholesale market. It's not going to be a florist market for me, you guys. I don't live close to a town. Now, if you live close to a city and a big city where you would have lots of florists, because for me, it requires hitting the road at 5 o'clock in the morning, driving 2 hours away and hitting everybody on the way. Whereas if you are just on your farm and your city is just right there, one city with 6 florists, you would be like, okay, I just need to hire somebody to put this in the van and go push it. Or send an email out and get it sold and then deliver it. Or send out an email, let them know your availability after you've harvested it, because you have a cooler and you can store it and sell it from the cooler over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then as the orders come in, you just hold it and the florist is willing to pick it up. Do you see how many variables there are, that you can make it fit into your life? So, I don't know that I've talked about everything I was going to talk about, but it is kind of the main thing. Oh, the last thing, just sunflowers. I've got my sunflowers coming in here, and I'm not doing this. I'm just sticking hardcore to my farm stand idea. But yeah, I want to marry. I can see where you could marry the farm stand, or not the farm stand, but you could marry the grocery store and the need that they have, and that your sunflowers are so much more amazing with succession planting sunflowers the entire season, and just work a few years to build up a sunflower market. And I don't know why it couldn't be a flower market. I even took flowers into a little boutique shop downtown, and just everybody knew that on a certain day these bouquets would show up, and you could just do sunflowers. Could be, or you could just move through your season and say, I bring 20 to this location every Thursday. And in time, it catches on. And then you promote that through your marketing, and you just build your market. You make your market happen. Everybody has to do that, you guys. That's just how it is. You know, we can grow it, and we can have fun on our farms. Marketing and selling your flowers, it's not my favorite part. My favorite part is just growing. But if you build it, you will be able to sell it. And your first year, don't even expect to be successful. Like, give it some time, but be persistent, okay? Show out your fortitude and your perseverance. That always wins. All right, that is my podcast for today, you guys. God bless you all. I pray that He makes your land fertile. The biggest thing people always say is like, well, I can't do that because my land isn't that good. And it's probably true. I don't know. But I'm like, just put your hands in that dirt and just start moving it, working it, adding to it. In time, it will happen. And so there you go. If you go do something, something's going to happen. And right now, I better go do something like catch a gopher. I'm having such a good time catching gophers. We're using that gopher hawk, gopherhawk.com. Holy smokes, I am eradicating my gophers, and I'm having a good time doing it. You guys have a great week.